Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Customer Advisory Board workshop, all about CAB strategy and design. We're going to give it another 2 minutes to allow people time to join. Hi, and welcome. We'll get started at 2 minutes after the hour. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the CAB workshop, and we'll officially start 2 minutes after the hour. Welcome to today's CAB workshop. We're going to kick it off in another minute. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's CAB workshop, a blueprint for effective CAB strategy and design. So a couple notes on housekeeping. We're recording the webinar. We'll send you the recording afterwards. If you have any questions throughout, go to the Q&A box and submit them. We'll answer along the way, and then we have some time at the end as well. So today's agenda, we're going to do introductions, and then our guest speaker, my colleague Judy, is going to talk about, give you an overview of the CAB. How do you determine objectives and metrics? She's going to talk about design elements and how to create a charter, and then how do you redesign a CAB? And we'll close out with Q&A and resources. So go ahead, Judy, and say hi and introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining this webinar today. I've been working on Customer Advisory Board since 2009 and been with Ignite since 2013 with a variety of clients. So look forward to sharing with you some of the background and experience I've collected along the way.
Thanks so much, Judy. Quick notes before we get back to Judy, just some comments about Ignite. We're the only global firm dedicated to CAB. We've completed over 300 advisory board engagements, and leading B2B companies use many of the industry best practices that we've developed for their own CAB programs. And we offer a full suite of CAB solutions. We can help your company create a board. We can help you assess, benchmark, and provide recommendations to improve your existing boards. And you can hire Ignite CAB facilitators to facilitate your advisory board meetings, both in person and virtual. So we like to start with a poll. So our poll is, what is the current status of your CAB program? I'm about to launch it. So let us know the status of your program. You don't have one, you haven't started, you're trying to launch. Your existing program is on hold, your program is in progress, or you're expanding the program and adding new boards, either for a customer advisory board or for partner advisory boards. So thank you. I'm going to end the poll and I'll share the results. And do you see the results, Judy? Just making sure you see it, Judy. A majority of folks here are trying to launch, and then there's a lot of people who have the program in progress, and also a good portion of people don't have a program yet, and some are expanding. So across the board. So thank you, everyone. So now I'm going to hand it over to Judy. Oh, you're on mute.
The first things I'll have to figure out is, can I get off mute and I'll advance? So the first thing we're going to talk about is what does a CAB program do for a company? And I'll tell you that I'm very passionate about the power of a customer advisory board, because I've seen firsthand what it can do for a company as a practitioner within the company, as well as being a consultant to other companies. But for the host company, it's a great unvarnished resource of feedback for the corporate strategy, for any R&D activities you're looking at, for any customer advocacy programs, and it's also going to support all of your other voice of the customer initiatives. It's definitely going to help tamp down any customer churn, especially among your strategic customers, and absolutely far and away, it's going to deepen those customer relationships like nothing you've ever seen. For CAB members, the big things that they get out of it, of course, is access to the leadership team, up close and personal for a day and a half or 2 days, working together with you, influencing the direction of the company, learning about the company. One of the things you'll hear as you go in and out of CAB programs is people will write, I didn't know you did this, or I had no idea you were capable of doing that. There's just so much learning that's outside the silo of how they see your company that's very valuable and powerful for you. And definitely there's a lot of professional development that goes on among the CAB members. So I think they appreciate that. I've seen it to the point where our CAB members include the CAB as part of their resume that they include in the materials for the CAB meeting. And there are a variety of different advisory boards. There's a strategic advisory board, a product advisory board, and a partner advisory board. Each of these have different objectives and are looking at pulling together different cohorts to be a successful program and work with whatever your objectives are. So we'll come back and we'll talk about some of these, but I'd say far and away, the one that I see most often is the strategic advisory board. And what are those program components? Well, it's going to start with a strong executive sponsor, and you really need that to push this forward. For the business impact, you need to understand, what am I trying to do here? The question I'll keep asking you is, what are you trying to learn from your advisory board program? What are you trying to learn about your customer behavior? What are you trying to learn about their interest in your programs? And what new program are you thinking about bringing to market that you want to reshape and bring together? Mutually beneficial charter. In other words, what's the reciprocal value that the company's going to get out of this program, as well as the members? And you definitely got to have the right members. We'll talk about this a lot. Recruiting for members never ends, but you've got to begin by thinking carefully about who those members are. What's their title? What's their area of responsibility? Have they participated in advisory board programs before? And does this feel like a good use of their time? All these things are important. The compelling agenda gets back to that question. What do you want to learn from your customers? What do you want the customers to learn about your company? And that inside of that is really what it's all about. And the way you're going to get to that is by interviewing all those right members ahead of time to help understand what's important to them, what's top of mind that they want to learn from you. And then the ongoing effort. This is not an event. So if you're a marketeer, it's really easy to think of this as a customer event. It's not an event. It's a business program. And has a beginning, perhaps in 2023, but it's got an ending out 5 years from now and beyond. And so I think you've got to think about that sustainability of this program. It's not bringing together people for fun, although you will have fun. There'll be a lot of great commentary, but you really have an ongoing business reason to be together, and you are really working hard to evolve your company's business. A CAB versus other engagement programs, it's a really interesting perspective here in this relationship and reach map. So the higher the executive, the more strategic the engagement has to be. If you're looking at customer surveys or you're looking even at a user group, it's a lower level type of program. And I think you need to have that sort of point of view in mind, because you really want people to come to the meeting and take their customer hat off and put on their advisor hat and give you business guidance about your business. We have 5 different approaches we could take to this problem. We think 3 and 4 have more impact for you. What do you think? And you really want to hear the unvarnished commentary from your members about what they think you should do. This is an approach to how Ignite goes about putting together its CAB approach, and we're going to kind of go through this serpentine, not quite a maze, but a little diagram here, and talk about what it's all about. We've talked a little bit about some of the design elements, but we'll talk about more as we go today. That design leads to a program launch, and that launch is going to be driven by member recruitment. Again, probably the most important asset you're going to be bringing to this, because the advisory board is all about the people who participate in it, both from the company side as well as the member side. And so that you've got to have a plan and a strategy for who you're going after, just like you do for any sales target inside of a business. And then agenda creation is going to be driven by your conversation with these members ahead of time to understand what's top of mind, what hot topics are they expecting to hear about, what concerns do they potentially have with your company and services. And materials and member communication, a lot of materials go out ahead of time. Pre-reads are terrific, but they have to have continuity inside of the meeting. So to let people know who's coming, what's the landscape of all the different players that are going to be there. Then the meeting itself, whether it's virtual or in person, has to be figured out in terms of what types of sessions, how much interaction, how much activities do you want to have people engaged in. It is not talking heads by the company. We have an 80-20 rule. 20% of the time, the host company can talk, but 80% of the time, we want to hear from their members, from their customers, because that's where the value is for the company. And it's awful hard to sometimes not jump in and solve a problem, right in a meeting. But if you see something that, you can have a sidebar with a customer later and explore that a little bit further. But really, you want to hear what they have to say. And then that reporting and action tracking. What are the initiatives that come out of that meeting? Are there 3? Are there 4? Are there 5? And how are you going to give them life and make them evolve by the time you meet again? And then again, that gets back to that ongoing engagement. One of the practices we've seen is that if you're holding an inaugural CAB meeting, you don't wait a year for the second meeting, meet in 9 months, so that you aren't losing as much with a new group of people, and then you can start your annual cadence. But in between then, are you going to have a conference call? Are you going to have some other topic that you're going to share with people? It doesn't have to be with everybody, but you need to have some plans for how you're going to keep engagement alive and going. Right.
Judy, David raised his hand. So David, can you type your question in the Q&A box? We're not going to allow the attendees to speak. So go ahead and type your question in the Q&A box so we can get to it. Thanks. And for everyone else, if you have questions, go ahead and type them in the Q&A box.
Okay. I don't see anything right now, so I'm going to carry on, but go ahead and if I'm going too fast or too slow, let me know that as well too. So now let's talk about some of the objectives about the CAB business reason. Again, a customer advisory board has to be driven by a business rationale, why you want to get together and what is it that you want to learn, or what's the potential value or impact that you're looking to create. What do you need to know to evolve your line of business further or your service dimensions? And mutual benefit, what's that value proposition that's going to draw your customers in? Definitely networking is huge. People always enjoy that. But also, what are you trying to solve and what are you trying to learn? Or is there something happening in your industry that's an inflection point? The CAB results could be any of these 5 towers for a strategy issue, marketing, customer satisfaction, product and solutions, and definitely sales. So as you think about what you're trying to get out of the advisory board, it's going to lie in one of these towers. But what's important to you? I do see that question now. Okay, you're going to wait.
Oh, Judy, you can keep going. I just had messaged David if you had a question to let us know. Oh, you're on mute now, Judy.
Yes. Okay, so how do you measure the impact of the board? This is probably another important question for you to ask. And any of these things will work for you, and all of them are equally important to you. But definitely the things that stand out and the things that we see time and time again is deepening the relationship. And that can come across in terms of customer references that people are happy to provide you, the revenue growth, both the upsell and the cross sell that have been influenced by a customer. And again, often we're going to hear people talk about the fact that there is no that they didn't know something about your company that's really important, and that's really a critical part of what you need to learn about. As one of the things that every company I've been with seems to have pluses and minuses is that consultative sales or an account team. And so that's really what a CAB can do, is really boost the consultative impact that your company can have. The things that they learn in the CAB go back out to the sales teams and the account teams and make sure you have a good communication channel, keep everybody informed in that. And now we're going to talk about some design elements. And internal alignment. This can be tricky, especially if you're starting up a new advisory board. There's a whole lot of territorial dancing that will go on about which customers should come to this advisory board and which ones shouldn't. Oh, our customers really wouldn't be interested in this, might say one account group, or another account group tries to offer up everybody. So you've got to have a clear point of view about what's that business priority. The lines of businesses are going to engage and they're going to commit the resources. That's really, really important to you. And then the sphere of influence, how are you going to get this done? You've got to have a really strong senior executive that's going to, go to the mat for the program, and also have a set of key influencers who are actually helping the CAB come to be. It's really important to figure all that out, so as you get down the road, you won't be tripped up by a lack of support. So that sphere of influence is going to come out of these cohort groups. So the program manager, the single point of contact that typically Ignite works with to really make the program happen. Following the subject matter experts, steering committee of executives, and then the executive sponsor themselves. It's sufficiently high in the organization, if not one of the C-level officers, and make sure that it's all working together. But all the action occurs at this level, but it's driven up the organization. But there are a lot of check-ins between the program manager and the executive sponsor along the way to make sure you do have alignment on what we're talking about, on even the questions that are being asked in the interviews. You might tap some of the subject matter experts for that, or possibly the steering committee. In some companies, I've seen the steering committee members actually take hold of a whole initiative and really run it through and really work back down the organization. So it really will depend upon what you're trying to accomplish and make happen in your programs. And some of the design decisions. So this is a really important page in terms of what you're looking at. What's the content and rationale? What are you doing? Why are we getting together? What do you want to learn? But people, who are the people that you're going to have involved, both internally? We just talked about the executive sponsor, the steering committee, those internal resources, but now also about that advisory board, the member selection criteria and the list of prospective members. It's almost one of the first things you need to do is begin canvassing and deciding who you're going to approach. Is it your top 50 revenue customers? Is it the last 10 customers that have come in that you think are high potential? You've got to have a good balance of companies and a good balance of personalities that are open and willing to engage and willing to help you, be a business advisor to you to move your company forward. So this is critically important. And then really the type of board that you're going to put together. Is it a regional board, a global board, horizontal or vertical? I've seen both people going by different verticals. I mean, that could be a channel as well as a vertical, or it could be horizontal, just a nice cross section of a bunch of different verticals. And how often are you going to meet? Some people want to meet twice a year. That's a really tough challenge because you've got to get a lot of work done in between those two meetings to have sustainability for the members. So it's really important to understand that. Or do you meet every 9 months instead of every year? Figure out what's important and how critical it is to you to get fresh information from your members. The CAB charter really sort of lays out why you're getting together and what your business rationale is. And really, again, what are those learning objectives? What does that host company want to learn from their CAB members? And then that two-way engagement that you're going to get out of this to maximize their impact and the effectiveness of what you're going to learn from the different members. So the CAB charter is going to have a classic mission, scope, objectives, duration, board member benefits. And those are simple things. Board member benefits, we've already been over the access, the influence, the networking, and the customer advisory board membership. That it's what are the board member responsibilities, what's their time commitment, what cost commitment, and then what's the nomination process within your company. I've seen companies that have a pretty strict application that you fill out. Other companies sort of do it in a more undefined way. But however it's done in your company, the person who's leading the CAB program really needs to give it some thought and create the structure around it if one didn't exist. But the membership is really important to understand what the board members are going to be doing. And then what does the host company do? What are their responsibilities? And then what do your consultants do? Everybody's roles, so that people are clear about their expectations.
Oh, Judy, I'm gonna pause for a moment. There's a question from Linda. What department should be in charge of the CAB marketing or customer experience? Good question.
Okay, so Linda, I'll answer that like an economist. It depends. It's a great question, and most often we see marketing in the driver's seat, but it also could be customer experience. It just depends upon how your company is organized and what kind of charter each of those companies have. Marketing sometimes has a more strategic perspective on the company's product line and the product evolution, so that may make it more appropriate, whereas customer experience is really all the outcomes sort of thing, or the drivers and the influencers that you want to insert. So it really just depends upon what the companies then approach in the marketplace. So as you get into a charter, you're going to define your strategy and the focus, and then what its alignment is with the companies. The objectives have to be the internal alignment on the CAB objectives and their goals, and then the membership duration. And I've seen most often either 18 months or 24 months as a time duration for a member. It's really important to set a time period and set a tenure, because at some point you may want to retire a customer or a member. And if you have a 2-month or 18-month tenure to fall back on, now you have a basis on which to have them be retired. And a lot of companies do rotate their membership, but other companies, I've been on boards where people have been on them years, and it's still a viable member, and they're really adding enormously to the dialogue and to the fabric of the advisory board. But the mission, what are the objectives, and then how long, what are the expectations for that member, really important. Member responsibility and nomination, they're really simple responsibilities. Attend that in-person meeting as well as any virtual meetings, whether that's a half-day conference call, a 30-minute conference call, and then also to participate in the 30-minute interview ahead of time to help us craft the agenda. Another important thing is that membership isn't transferable, and a CAB really is an exclusive invitation-only type of board. We have seen people send delegates to meetings when the member cannot attend the meeting, and you can certainly accommodate that. But what you don't want is two people from a company attending, a member and a +1. That's not as viable because now you increase the group, and now it looks uneven to the other members. So, but it's really important to have a good process and understand what you're trying to achieve. Cost for members, really the typical cost that we see for members is their airfare, because the company typically picks up all the lodging and all the accommodations, as well as the ground transportation. I would say that there are, Sarbanes-Oxley came along a few years ago, and a lot of companies, especially larger public companies, have some boundaries around that type of accommodation. But what we typically do is, put them in touch with the hotel so that they can get the same rate that we're offering to the members. So I think you want to work with them, but just know that occasionally that will come as a little bit of wrinkle that you'll have to work through. And this seems to be pretty standard practice in the industry. In terms of your program plan, in this particular program outline, they have 9 months. And there are many times I would kill for 9 months to get a program launched. But you can see the different activities that occur in this hypothetical timeline. The kickoff and project planning begin in the first part of the year, and then member recruitment is right on the heels of that. And I would actually probably draw this line all the way across to December, because again, you'll be busy working on this all the time, and members get promoted, they retire from the company, and you have to backfill. So it's definitely an ongoing process for you to manage. But then also your interviews, both with the SMEs that are developing the program, and then your member interviews that are beginning. And for a September meeting, you might want to really start those member interviews as early as April, so that you get enough of that information in time, so that about 2 months ahead of time, your meetings, you've gotten all the feedback from your members so that you can digest it, present it, and figure out exactly what you're going to be covering at that meeting. Many companies have a clear idea of what they want to present and what they're trying to learn from their members. But sometimes there's a surprise that comes along, like we didn't know they wanted to talk about this, so now we've got to figure out how we're going to weave automation into the conversation. Pre-reading materials are terrific, but only if they get woven into the final agenda so people can see how that fits together and comes out. It's really important to look at all the different steps that are involved here. And then also another thing that's important at the meeting is to have a survey. And typically that survey should happen on site so that members can complete the survey, whether it's on an iPad or on the app, on a phone, or maybe you send them a Survey Monkey after the fact. But you want to get that survey hopefully on the same day as the last day of the meeting, so that you can sit down in a debrief immediately after the meeting and look at what people had to say, what worked, what didn't work, because that will begin to influence your thinking about the next program that you have for members. It is really an ongoing process, because you're starting this meeting, you're working through this year, and you're coming out of the meeting and you're thinking about what you're now going to do for a year from now. It's just definitely a sustainable program that you want to feed and nurture along the way. Any questions so far? Any other questions? Redesigning a CAB. Okay, now you're have the luxury of having a CAB that's been in operation for several years, and you want to look at something different about it. something's changed. Is it your business environment that's changed? New trends, new technology? Is there an evolving business strategy? Your company's shifting its channel segmentation, and now you want to reorient it and pick up some ideas from another cohort of customers. Or, you're going to shift that CAB from a vertical industry focus to one where you're looking at multiple industries, or the flip side of that. Or are you just not getting the value out of this that you thought you would with this particular CAB? Whatever the reason that prompts you to look at this, you're going to begin the process sort of all over again. One other thing is that, have you had an increase in membership? When you get upwards of 40 people in a CAB, you really don't have a very viable working group. You got too many people. Even if you have 30 customers that are members, how many are going to actually attend your meeting? And the further away you get from 75 to 80% of the members attending, you need to pare down the size of that advisory board so that you get a core group that sticks together and is revisiting with each other from meeting to meeting. So it's important that you have a somewhat intimate group. One of the things we haven't talked about is how many host company people come to the meetings. And we've seen it on all sides of it. Ignite really prefers you have one attendee from the company for every 2 members, customer members that are in attendance. But we've seen reverse of that with some of our advisory boards, and they seem to function as well too. But it's definitely a question that you've got to answer for yourselves at the outset. And then when you revisit the elements of your CAB design, what are the things you're going to repeat? All the things you did initially, looking at the content and the rationale. You're going to, what new do you want to learn that you weren't getting out of that other? If you're shifting industries, that's simple. If you're consolidating industries, that is maybe a little bit more broader based. And then again, the people question: who's in, who's out, who's coming to the meeting, both in terms of members as well as your internal folks. And then, are you changing the nature and the approach and the logistics associated with this board? Are you going to meet more frequently or less frequently? And how is that going to serve your company's objectives? All right, any questions?
Thank you, Judy. Yeah. Do you see the Q&A box, Judy?
Yes. Okay, what if the majority of our customers are competitors to each other? Is that a legal landmine? Absolutely not. And most of, this is a world of co-opetition, as you're all quite familiar with. And more often than not, even when you do a cross vertical, you'll still have some people that are direct competitors. But this board is not for governance of the company. It's for guidance to the company. And so I think for some of our boards, we sort of have a legal statement that we read at the outset that describes to people that this board is not for the governance of the company. It's for guidance to the host company. And people are not asked to nor expected to divulge any company secrets as part of their answers to that. So definitely you're going to have, co-opetition in any mix of probably 4 or more customers. So definitely most boards operate with people that are pretty close competitors. And one of the things I've seen in the past is that inside the meeting, there's one level of conversation. Outside the meeting, there's a different level of conversation with the host company. So people are used to playing things close to their vest. All right, Tatiana, back to you. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thanks, Judy. If you have any final questions, go ahead and type it in the Q&A box. And I'm going to advance the slide. So this is your last chance to ask some questions. And if you do have them and you're typing them in, I'll share about some upcoming CAB events. Oh, do you see the question, Judy?
I do. Let me come back on. Do you recommend that dates for the next meeting be announced at the close of the current meeting? We've had success with this as the executive level members want to get it on their calendars. Liz, absolutely, positively, that is the most ideal way to do that. And Lord, would I love to have that again and again, but often it can't be done. Executive calendars are, for the host company, can be, the first hurdle. But I think it definitely is, if you can do that, it helps everybody, gets it on their calendars. But I would say, if you can't do that, I wouldn't wait much more than 9 months out to announce a new date. And then the next question is, does it make sense in an HR agency to have an advisory board for one part, like life sciences, or better for all parts, like life sciences, sustainable tech? I would say that you can, and is a CAB better on a more general level? CABs are effective at any level. They're very effective at a horizontal level where you're getting people from diverse interest groups and disciplines together, as well as people who are all together in the same vertical. You will be amazed at how much cross-learning occurs, even though they may not be a life science person themselves. They're on the tech side. They'll learn from the questions that the life science people put together. And then Claire asked a question about when defining and sharing the ROI and effectiveness of a CAB internally, what do you think is the most valuable metric? Okay, so my personal answer to that is revenue growth. Now, the CAB cannot claim credit for revenue growth because we're one of many things out there. The account team, the sales team, the service team, there are myriad people that are touching that account that are helping it grow. But what I will tell you is that the closeness of the relationship at the most senior levels is the powerful stickiness that you get out of an advisory board. And one of the best things I ever did was our CFO came to one of our meetings, and he was knocked out by the dialogue among the members. He was knocked out by the responsiveness of the executive team and how on their feet and agile they were. And so one night when I was walking down the garage, I ran into him and he says, whatever you need for that program, you've got it. I mean, it's you really can't take credit for all the revenue growth, but it definitely is the measure you should look at, as well as how much penetration you're making with that account. If they were a buyer of widget A, and now they became a buyer of widget B and a service A, you need to show that together too. So you need to kind of understand the breadth of services that they're buying from you, and then how that's changed over time. Don't take credit for it, but just show people the truth of what the profile is of those members. And especially for a new customer who's maybe new to your business, but and is just starting out, and then how quickly they're growing compared to another customer who joined about the same time. So Gina says, what methods do you use if customers are not participating or providing feedback as much as you hoped in person during the event? We've done simple things like pick a certain executive to go talk to that person to find out, are they distracted by some other event that's going on that they're really having to pay more attention to than being in that room? And that can be, very, very useful just to find out what's going on with that person. And then our facilitator, A.L. Danone in particular, is very good at calling out people and saying, so-and-so, we haven't heard from you. What is your thought about this? So your facilitator can help some of that live during the meeting happen. But if you notice something that's just, somebody's just sort of sullen and not really there, it's probably a good idea to have somebody at a break, say something to them and see what's going on. And then if CABs are so valuable, why aren't they used by companies? Any studies that show the correlation of market success in investing in CABs? That would be a great study, David. I would say that, what is an advisory board all about? It's about talking to your customers. Imagine what a simple thing that is, and imagine the benefits that come out of that. That would be a great study. And but I just say firsthand, what I see is that there are companies that buy into it, and there are companies, that are not as engaged by it. So I just think that, and some of them have 3 and 4 advisory boards. Others have 1. But I think many companies do see the benefits of talking to their customers, hearing what's on their mind, having a direct communication with them. And then what's the best way to track CAB feedback? Definitely, you're going to have a survey that you'll put together at the meeting, and you can do the analysis on that. You're interested in things about, how relevant was the information on a scale of 1 to 5? How useful was that information? And definitely always leave open-ended comments. What's their advice for the next meeting? What was the most beneficial thing they got out of this meeting? So I think you've got to, just track it and track that over time, and how many of the same participants are at those meetings. Definitely some good ideas there. Thanks very much. You guys had some great questions. Appreciate them. All right.
Yeah, really good questions that came in. Thanks, Judy. So talking about CAB events, definitely follow us on LinkedIn. And I put the link there, linkedin.com/company/ignite-advisory-group. We share all of our events there. And so the next one coming up is next week, the CAB conference from the Customer Advisory Board Association. This is actually the only CAB conference that I know of that's solely focused on CAB. And you have an amazing lineup of speakers from Citrix, Adobe, Google Cloud, Ignite, VMware, and Slap 5, and it's totally free. So I'll be sending you the link right after, so you can sign up. It's next week. And join us for our CAB workshop series. The next one in April is on CAB recruitment. It's April 13th, so look for the email from me and you can sign up for that as well. Free CAB evaluation. So contact us and you can schedule a call with an Ignite CAB expert, and we'll share an advisory board program plan. We'll discuss your advisory board needs. We'll make recommendations. And so contact us at info@igniteag.com or igniteag.com/contact. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And yes, we'll send the recording afterwards. Judy, any final words?
If you're considering a customer advisory board program, you're definitely on the right track to maximizing your customer relationships. You'll learn a lot, you'll benefit from it directly, and you'll be amazed at the results you'll give. So get in there and make it happen. If you've got a program that's going, there's always more to come out of it. So best wishes to everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Judy. Bye, everyone.
Bye.